Today we're talking about networking events, and networking events are slightly different than networking groups in a number of ways. There's some oddities to them, there's some major differences, but at the core, it's still the same. It's all about building and maintaining relationships. So let's talk about it after the break. All right, see you then. All right, welcome back. We're talking about networking events. And for those of you who don't know, and again, I'm going to assume there are a lot of people that don't understand networking events or don't understand what networking events do. Networking events are usually hosted by some sort of group. There's usually a commercial group that will hold them locally. I've gone to networking events with chambers of commerce and other sort of different groups. The idea in general is that you pay a small fee at the door, $20 or under, and then you get access to a room full of people, that are looking to exchange and share business. Okay. Now, the problems associated with that are typically on the attendees side of it. Let's use that. We'll say the attendee side, and by that I mean they go in with an expectation that, and I've done this as well as anybody else, so I can't throw too many stones. They have gone in with an expectation that, okay, if I spend $20 at this event and I go in and I spend 3 hours there, I should come out with a large number of sales. I should come out with a bunch of closed business. And much like networking groups, that is a wrong way to approach it. That is not the way to go, because that's probably not going to happen. It may happen, it may, but more than likely, it's not going to happen. Your goal in going to a networking event is, again, much like networking groups, is you want to find people who can help you connect with super fans and casual consumers. You're talking to the person beyond the person in front of you. All right, so the person that you're talking to has a wide range of super fans and casual consumers as well. And if it's an aligned industry, your casual consumer and super fan is pretty much alike. Your goal in going to the event is, once again, like the groups, is to train people, train consumers or train other businesses, I should say, how to talk about your business, how to keep an eye out for your super fan and your casual consumer, so that when they send you a referral, when they send someone to you, then it is the best referral that you can possibly get. It's it's who is ideal and right for you. All right. And to do that, you need to talk to people. All right. And you need to talk to people with the expectation that, you're just building this relationship. You basically want to probe and find out who you know, what do you know, how can you help me? All right. And again, you may walk out with some business, and that's a definite possibility, but more than likely it's not. Now, what happens at these events is typically you will, it's usually it's like a cocktail hour kind of thing. There's usually beverages and food and other little things there. And you will walk around the room and just introduce yourself to people. And the ones that I've usually gone to that have been pretty good have given you like a sort of a name tag, a color-coded name tag, so that anybody walking around will know what industry that you're in. All right. So for example, I'm a little weird because I want to talk to mostly small businesses, and they kind of cover small and home and solopreneurs, and they kind of cover the gamut of industries. So for me, it was a little bit more, I couldn't target people, but back in the days when I was doing design, I knew who I wanted to target. So, I want to work with another marketing agency. I want to look for printers. So I could target people based on the color-coded name tag that they had, and hopefully start to develop relationships with them. And that's sort of the idea. If you're a financial planner and you're looking to meet lawyers, you'll look for the people that have the blue name tag, and therefore you can kind of connect with them and kind of build business with them. The downside of networking events is it is a networking event. And typically, like, as I said, there is an alcoholic component attached to it. There's usually some sort of bar there. And so there have been times where I have talked to people and I'm like, okay, you're really drunk. Or the other side of it is you get those people, the used car salesman, and no offense to used car salesman, I know I'm dealing in a stereotype right here, but it's that sort of idea of that very aggressive salesperson kind of mentality, the person that's there that just grabbing business cards. And there are those people that will be there. I have talked to a number of people, sometimes where they're in sales and they haven't had enough leads for the month, so they go to networking events and they just collect business cards in order to say, oh, hey, this is a lead, this is a lead, this is a lead. Again, that's not a great way to run it, because you're just kind of pushing the rock up the hill and it's going to come sliding back down at some point. So you kind of have to navigate those waters. One of the things that I used to like to do, if you're afraid of going to a networking event, and I can be pretty shy in unfamiliar territory, unfamiliar waters, and I can kind of clam up, which I know if you know me is kind of a weird thing to say that, you have a quiet side, but I do. And one of the things when I first started doing networking, which is again why networking groups works for me, it's that basically I'm sitting across from a table one-to-one. I can have an intimate conversation with somebody. It's not so much me selling as me kind of building relationships. And everything that I do in Sell the Experience, Finding Your Betty, anything that I do is all about building those relationships, about building deeper, solid relationships with people. So I'm not good at chit chat. I'm not good at small talk. I'm not good at like, oh, what do you do? Okay, really? That sounds fun. Tell me more about it. I'm not good at that because I get very uncomfortable. I get very shy. So what I did, if you're one of those people, is I went with a friend of mine who was very gregarious, who was very outgoing, who was very much my wing woman. And she would go out and she was a great salesperson. She'd go out and talk to anybody. She could start a conversation with literally anybody in a room. And suddenly she'd come back with like 3 or 4 people and be like, hey, you got to meet this person. They're doing the same thing you're doing, or they're in an aligned field with you or something like that. And it was a great way for me to do networking events, is that I could go out with Annie and we would have a really great time. Spend some time together outside of, networking groups and other things. But also that she was sort of the driving force to bring the people that I needed to talk to me. So if you're one of those people who's a shyer person, who's a little more on the quiet side, maybe think about finding a friend of yours in business that you can say, hey, let's, and at the minimum, you've at least spent an evening with somebody that you like, and you can have a couple of drinks, or spend some time together, get some snacks, and get a little closer. But they will kind of sometimes work as a wing person for you, which I found to be really great for me. The other thing about networking events is, again, the thing that I think people gravitate towards them is they're once a month, so there's not that weekly component of time that's required. They're rather affordable. I know that they can have ticket prices that go up to like $100 or something like that, but typically for the average person, you can pop in for under $20. I've seen them somewhere between $10 to $20. Now that the pandemic is over, and things are starting to get slightly back to normal, I would expect that networking events are going to start to pop up. The big group, and then I really kind of enjoyed going to some of their events, is the networking after work group, and they've been doing some virtual stuff. But the in-person ones they run really well. They're rather affordable, and they host them in a variety of major towns. And the funny thing is, I've met people there that 2 or 3 years later, we've somehow come in contact again and started doing business. So it was one of those things where I built that relationship, I planted the seeds, and then the seeds came to fruition shortly thereafter. And that's kind of the mental attitude that you have to go in with it. I'm planting seeds that will someday take root. Now, again, using that plant, that seed analogy, you're going to have to water them. You're going to have to take care of it. You're going to have to stay in touch with these people. But know, again, that it is about building that relationship. It is not about closing sales, okay? When you speak to them, when you talk to them, keep that in mind that you're planting seeds to build a relationship. I've talked to some people that I've met at those events, and they'll call up and we'll have a great conversation and we'll talk about things and stuff. And then at the end of the call, which I know is coming, they know they have to say it, is, okay, so how can we get to, how can I start getting you to do this? How can I start getting you to do that? How can I get you to buy my products or services? And that is a sales technique, and that is a sales methodology. I'm low touch, so I tend to think of going more like, I'm just touching base with you. I just want to, talk to you about things, hey, and what I will do is figure out, is there a topic that I wanted to talk about with them that kind of relates to the products and services that I want to sell, and how to talk to them about finding me some super fans or finding me some casual consumers. So for example, I may call them up and say, hey, I just saw this article on Newsweek, and it was about this type of thing going on in small business. And, what do you think about it? How do you feel about it? And I just wanted to kind of get some opinions. And then in the process, talking about it, kind of figure out ways to work in, like, hey, my super fans, my consumers, my customers would really be annoyed at that. Okay. And kind of telling them about how it affects me, and educating them about the super fan and what I'm looking for in the super fan. Okay. And that's really everything that you're going to be doing when you connect with a networking group or a networking event, is about training them about what's the super fan, how to talk to them, what they need to know to help you grow your business. Okay. Networking groups, that's pretty much about it. They're not overly complicated. Again, I think the two downfalls that people fall into are, they think they're going to come out with a lot of sales. They think they're going to be the belle of the party. They think like, okay, well, if I collect 15 business cards, then that's 15 closed sales rather than 15 new potential relationships. That I think is the big one. I think the other thing that people tend to do with networking events that they don't do with networking groups is they assume that this is the path of least resistance into getting me to grow my business. So if I show up for an event once a month, then I can grow my business, and boom, all my problems are solved. And yes and no, that can happen. However, in the ideal situation, you will not always be seeing the same faces at a networking event. Okay, if you start seeing the same 20 people at the networking event every month, then you might as well just join a group because what's the point? You've talked to them all. Now, if you see one or two of the same faces, that's great, but there should be a variety of different faces on a regular basis so that you're not feeling like you're talking to the same 5 people all the time. That's the great side, is there's a variety to it. They're held all over the place. So if, there were times when I wanted to grow the design business up into, the LA area. So I would go and I would attend a networking event in Los Angeles or down in San Diego or out in the Inland Empire or something like that. Just because that was another great way. My industry, my business wasn't rooted in my neighborhood. I didn't have to focus there. I could have a broader reach. And so that was one way to dip my toe in and kind of look around and see what was going on in different parts of within 30 miles of my business. And so that's another great way to do it, is if you want, look and see, okay, well, I want to, I feel like I'm a little oversaturated in Orange County, so I want to look to expand into San Diego, or I want to look to expand into LA. And I can do that. I can start to explore that option through a networking event that's being hosted in LA. Okay. And again, that's kind of it about networking, but they're not overly complicated. They can be a lot of fun. Like I said, I've met a lot of people there that I still have relationships with, that I just, it was great that I met them. I would have never met them had I not attended that event. So I always look at it that way. That, to me, that was the bonus. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear what your comments are about networking events, what your experience has been with networking events and how you've used them, how they've worked for you, how they haven't worked for you. Leave all that in the comments below. Follow me on social media. I'm E.H. Howard, literally everywhere. Like and join the Facebook page. We're doing some really great stuff on there. Some exclusive content. We're kind of building a community of people that we can kind of start to share and ideas and philosophies and expand our businesses. And as always, I will see you in the next video. All right. Have a good day.